What is going on, world champions? Welcome to the first ever MANTHROPOLOGY live stream. What's going on, people in the chat? This is going to look a little different. It's going to sound a little different. It's going to be a little different. I didn't announce this or anything. God knows how many people will actually be in here, but what I do know is they will all be world champions. What's going on? Casey Walker, David Olderking, Ryan Chrysler, Sigma Chaos, Benny Danger, world champions. And what is going on, Aries War? So we will fire this up here in a second. Been a while since I produced a show. We'll see what happens. What's going on, chat? What is going on, chat? This is how the cool kids do it these days. It looks a little more clean, I guess. I don't know. I can read the chat way better now. All right, Aries War, I was right. What is going on? Vakrin Hart, welcome back. William Maines, Goldfish 1. Have I heard a story in 1992 up here in Canada of epic proportions? Mr. Smith 118 is back. The Rubicon. You are correct if your perception is that we don't know why people commit crimes. They need to be punished either way. That is the topic at hand. Is it time to stop asking ourselves why people doing all this crimes? Welcome to the jungle, Marie LaRue. Oh my gosh, what's the odds I remember these buttons? Oh, the magic is lost. The magic's lost. No, we're sticking in the jungle here. I like it better. I'm going to have a couple brewskis. Going to be low-key. Absolutely no plan whatsoever how long we're going or anything like that. But you'll see in the description of the video, there is a couple old and very old treatises, books, written literary works. I thought I had copies of both. I only found the one for tonight, which is the second one we'll get into. William Maines, 12 Months of Hell Yeah, amen. Oh, is it white? Oh, he's blue. He's blue. Welcome. Incredible. All right, the rarely seen Blue Channel member, William Maines, who his artwork is still over there on the wall behind me. It's incredible. Incredible. But the Anatomy of Melancholy, all the way back from 1621, as far as I am aware, that's kind of the first, we'll call it psychology book about why people get all melancholy, which we now call depression. But where I'd kind of like to start and maybe live a little bit more, yes, my voice is still fucked up, but where I'd like to live, if we can, is more with the book, The Criminal from Lost Honor, which is a German book. Der Verbrecher aus verlorener Ehre is a crime report by Friedrich Schiller, first published in 1786. I might posit that it's no accident that people started thinking about this sort of thing around the time the United States became a country. So, what's going on, chat? Artie Sparza, Pureblood Novax. Good to see you. Mike V, Pumpkin Supremo. What's going on, Jamester Man? Hoopa Ball. Obama's lip plate is not for sale. And Benny Danger back with Barack Loves Cock. Don't know that I can argue against that. But we have spent so much damn time. The Rubicon, quickly. Praise Harambe. Harambe. I got to put you over the chat here. Hang on. Like so. There we go. We do all in his name. So anyway. Man, it has been a while since I used all these buttons. The Criminal of Lost Honor, 1786. Friedrich Schiller. It's arguably a crime report. He went around and was like, these a-holes. Now, these are white European criminals he was looking at. They, you know, as far as the average upstanding citizen was concerned, they just could not understand why people would commit these crimes. And the kind of general way they treated criminals was just kill them. Just ice them. Just get rid of them. I'll find a happy medium with that music back, that jungle music in the background. smoke and drink if you got them. But like that was sort of the natural state of man all the way back to 1786 and before. There was not a lot of tolerance for criminals. And so Schiller was like, all right, well, in the interest of stopping them anyway, because the way criminals worked back in Europe in those times, they sort of lived in the woods, a little Jesse James-ish, if you will. Brigands, robbing passersby, highwaymen, whatever the fuck you want to call them. And he's like, I want to go talk to him. So he did. I have a copy of this book somewhere. I could not find it. But he did. Not a lot of information about it. It's in German. But what he found out, what they told him, was they lost their honor in some way or another, whether through it was losing all their money or screwing up in some way. But these were people who started off normal, lost their honor, and once they accepted internally, mentally to themselves, that they were a criminal, that they no longer had any honor, that was sort of what allowed them to take the first step to committing more and more crimes, which was robbery, and then escalating up to rape and murder and things like that. So my question to you in general for the duration of this show, chat, is I'm of the opinion that all things sort of move in cycles. And so I think it was arguably necessary to go through a cycle of human understanding of why people are criminals and what causes them to be criminals in the interest of stopping them. But as G.K. Chesterton famously once said, the point of an open mind is to close it again on something solid. Great quote. You're not supposed to, as the left would have us believe today, live in this constant state of open-mindedness. You're supposed to have an open mind to get smarter, but hit a point where you close it again on something solid. And in my individual case, I am closing my open mind with respect to criminals on the idea that we probably had it right in the first place. Now, also a bit of a petty criminal at times in my life. Maybe some of you are as well. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, and I'm, of course, not so subtly referencing what do we do about the corrupt people in the government? How did they get that way, and what do we do about them? What do we do about transgender people? What do we do about Antifa? What do we do about riots? What do we do about the Mexican cartels? Because they're all committing crimes against each other. I find that interesting. You may or may not. That is up to you. I ain't going to stop you. But any super chats will be highlighted. But it's just me. If you're just joining us, I will try to catch anything I can. I think I have given as much of an introduction to that as I can. And I am going to assume that you're all pretty high Q and see what I'm getting at. So let's have a discussion. Jesus, this beer. About our modern 2025 criminals. Did they come from lost honor or somewhere else? Has somebody maybe deduced this pattern in a way to create criminals, not unlike what we would call MK Ultra? Weaponize them, things like that. One more run through the chat. I guess I'll stick with it here. This isn't working for me. Let's bring this over here. And then we can peruse the chat at my discretion. Lampposts exist, says Lord of the Ree. God, I might have missed something there. Rabaruji, don't open your mind too much. It will fall out. Yes. Who did say that? Pure Blood for Life Seconds Dueling. Little Game of Thrones style. That was going down till very recently in human history. Andrew Jackson is a great example. Truth Aus, hello world champions. I am Aussie. I'm from Australia. D-Class Downers 302, please and thank you. Aries War, his father pulled strings to put him in an all-girls private school. Oh, I am going to have to go back and read that. Holy shit. Only Grant says time for wet works. Just ice all of them. Just kill them. starting to lean that way in some ways. But we're having a discussion. Mike V. Things have gone way too far and extreme measures are required to fix this. Yeah. Extreme measures. What does that mean? What are those? Sharon Peterson, genetic garbage, perhaps. That's actually an interesting point. So Schiller's book did not notice that. The criminals back in the 1700s were not genetic garbage. They were actually relatively decent people up until they lost their honor and started committing crimes. And a lot of the times they lost their honor. Honor was important back then, and no one gives a shit anymore. But, lost their money, didn't really necessarily do anything wrong, and started committing crimes because they developed the perception of themselves that they were a criminal. I don't think that's the species of criminal we're dealing with today, frankly. Darth Silver Sith. Yep, peaceful resolution stopped being an option a long time ago. Ooh, sounds like Mark Twain. I think you were right. Studio Dude Shed, good to see you. Good to see you. Studio Dude Shed. Smoke time, yeah, absolutely, if you got them. Dirty Jobs should feature being an ICE agent. Trump has been thinking big. Vacrenhart, 4. Yeah. Are we with Doge and border security and things like that? Lord of the Ree, the damn criminals and their lies and what to do about them. That is the topic at hand. We may bring back this jungle theme here, a little bit of manthropology, if you will. So I'm interested in this. I'm interested also in just having fun and speculating. About what will happen or what could happen or our individual involvement in it and things like that, and the outcomes of something like going scorched earth, which I think we're very tempted, a lot of us, to do. The damn criminals. Oh, I got you already, Lord of the Ree. Truthos, Australian, kangaroo boxer. Let me save you, said the monkey lifting the fish into the tree. And Bong Donkey with some fancy lettering. Don't know if I've seen you before. I will just get into it. I try to always reserve my own takes on things when possible, but maybe we'll just jump right into it. Only Grants, you totally owe you a speculation of sorts. Oh my goodness. I don't think, I think there was a time in history. This all, should have busted out Origin of Consciousness, that book. But, if you read ancient history to some degree, you don't really run into the sort of psychotic madmen murdering criminals that are pretty much the main bad guy in every movie now, and a lot of the good guys. Being totally insane is maybe a luxury and not something you would have survived very long when you lived in a time, all the way up until late 1700s probably, where some big, terrifying beast of a man would have just smashed the front of your head through the back of your head the second you started doing some antisocial shit. And so maybe two things have happened there, not just that people have gotten more insane. You can talk about all the reasons why, if you'd like, but also that the big face-smashing societal police have sort of disappeared from the anthroposphere, if you will. A lot of old video comments. They're all on Odyssey, damn it. They're on Odyssey. Go look on it. If you like those ones, I can make them public again. That's not a problem. But anyway, we really, for most of human history, have dealt with quote-unquote criminals that were a little more along the lines of that saying, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And also along the lines of that great Norm Macdonald joke of I was reading a history book and, oh, would you look at that, the good guys won every time. But in a sense, I mean, they try to call people from history psychos like Genghis Khan. Totally disagree. Caesar was certainly not a psycho. Napoleon, it's a little bit in the news lately with that Trump tweet. And then up to Hitler is probably the most recent one. And then, the argument starts to become he's a psycho. I don't know that I agree with that either. But what I do know now, and some of what Elon Musk's Doge is uncovering, so there's I don't know, we used to sort of use the dichotomy of blue-collar crime and white-collar crime. There's a whole new kind of collar out there, the rainbow collar crime. Shit like setting up these insanely complex scams to steal taxpayer money to fund teaching Afghani transplanted penguin species how to turn their wings into male and female genitalia. Shit that is literally that ridiculous. It just doesn't fucking make sense anymore. And I don't think that is a criminal from Lost Honor. That wasn't a normal person who everything was going great. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me. There definitely, if there was one class of people like that, it's the autists, the autistic transgender computer programmer kind of guys that sort of get their brains melted by being on the internet. I honestly don't know what's going on with them either, to tell you the truth. Oh, but a great comment there from Only Grant. So like that bold bondage dude stealing luggage before he did a shift in the White House. Circle Jerk 3CC, welcome back. Durka Muhammad Jihad. Here is Johnny. Well, Team America, I respect it. And I love you too, American made. But, so, what is it? What are we dealing with? The overarching question on the entire channel for over a year now has been, what is the problem? Maybe this is part of the problem, is that we're not dealing with rational people who are depressed in a normal sense. That old melancholy that's been around for 400 or so years. 1621, the Anatomy of Melancholy was written, so 400 and fucking 4 years. 404, not found. I've also been on the internet too long. But that is... the melancholy is far more natural. The criminal from Lost Honor is a natural thing. Thank you, American made. It's just a lot of love going around. But I don't know. I am of the opinion that answer to what is the problem in the most general sense is really, really hard to answer because there are not words for what the problem is yet. Just like once upon a time, there was only words for the colors black, white, and red, and it wasn't until, I believe, around Egypt that you started to see people using the color blue. Things like that. Just words for concepts, like everything else going through a cycle. You run into something, you have no word for it, even a caveman and a saber-toothed tiger. I haven't seen that before. Don't know how to describe the problem to somebody else. You got to start neologizing. You got to start making up new words. Quick plug for some Celtic Talisman dry snuff with cigarettes. It's, again, all this stuff, 1700s, 1600s, this is all white Europe where this was being discussed. It doesn't mean that didn't happen in the Arab world or the Asian world or anything like that. I'm just not aware of it. But I don't think we have words for what the problem is. I think that's why high verbal IQ people are tending to do really well right now as influencers, other than me, because you also can't be too open. That's not good for the brand. It's not good for the algorithm. But I really and genuinely believe that something is happening in people that has not happened before. And I think that's because things are happening out there that have not happened before. Some very obvious examples, computers, the internet that we can get on right now on a live stream randomly, unannounced, and a homie from Australia shows up. That's a new thing. That is a very new and weird thing. And just like I don't think we're really programmed to understand, say, the number infinity. I don't think we're programmed to understand the number 1 million, frankly. Trying to keep an eye on it as best I can. I don't think we're really programmed to deal with this sort of final problem that can only possibly arise in an ultra advanced civilization, which is you're not running from lions and tigers anymore, even though we still carry some of those fight or flight responses, physiological responses. And we're not really struggling to find food and shelter. And then we've had now hundreds of years of this, where did we come from, religions and things like that. And then we have scientific explanations for things, explanations for any and everything, except for maybe the past 20 years, 25 years. Let's go back to the year 2000. It certainly started to happen long before then. I mean, you go back to the 60s, peace and love. Was that the tipping point? I don't know. But not the criminal from Lost Honor, which are still out there. They're still out there. They make a mistake. They learn their lesson, and they stop doing that. It does happen. It has happened before. But we're working with what I think is an archaic way of dealing with criminals, which is the tendency to want to give them a little bit of latitude. And I would argue that comes from empathy. It's what we would want, because we're rational people. And we know rational people make mistakes, and one day we might make a mistake, and we don't want to be executed for that mistake in a zero tolerance culture. We're not Muslims in that sense. Some other cultures, we're not, people stealing in the Philippines back in the 90s, getting their hands chopped off and beat with canes. Maybe that is the answer. I don't know. But mistakes happen. And there is a culture in the past, anyway, that was able to reasonably deal with that. Well, that is not, I would argue, our culture anymore. This is actually sort of what the movie No Country for Old Men is about, if you will. Lord of the Ree. Part of the problem is that, as H.L. Mencken said, quote, the average man doesn't want to be free, he merely wants to be safe. Also, the abdication of charity/neighborliness as it's been usurped by the state. Yes, very well put. Very well put. I think it's time to start compressing that sort of information, data compression, into some new words and terms that allow us to think about things and also talk about them with each other. Just like inventing an arbitrary, the color blue, is that like two phonemes? An arbitrary sound that comes out of your fucking mouth, blue, but you both know what you're There was a point, even before that, where some big meat-headed caveman was like, rock. And then there was an epiphany when some other caveman was like, oh, rock. And then suddenly they could talk about it. So that's sort of what I'm getting at. Laughing Dog, if anyone was worried about brain cells, don't be. I get by with 3. Vakrenhart, I disagree. I'm not sure if you mean with me or not, but freedom is the priority. But there was, let me pull up. Oh, now I got my ashtray. I almost just grabbed my smoking cigarette. Let me pull back up this comment here. The average man doesn't want to be free. He merely wants to be safe. It's an interesting thought, and I think you might be right. And the word I would throw at that maybe is domestication. It's very obvious that we have domesticated as a species, humans. A guy with some mustache did some things. What guy? Who was that? Was his name Wolf? But, funny that Schiller is also German, the guy who started talking about Criminal of Lost Honor. But my mind, drug use, actually, that's a really good thing to weave into this. Drug use and mental illness is the majority of crime-related issues. You would have a lot of psychologists say, but I repeat myself. So drug use is often comorbid with a mental health condition, alcoholism and depression. Which one causes which? But I'd bet you would really struggle to find any sort of drug addict, and that would include alcoholics, drug addicts, obese people, I would argue, are in some degree a drug addict. Maybe one of the healthier ones, but compared to like heroin. But addiction to, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, that's what would have been a rational person if it wasn't for the drugs. So it's complicated, as you can tell, and I'm not here selling some sort of answer. I will give you my thoughts on it, but I also am very curious what you think. And I think it's fair to point out, I mean, there's nothing wrong if you put it in a vacuum with the concept of wanting to be safe. Right? I mean, even the most badass caveman would have wanted to be safe. In fact, they'd probably look at this studio, for example, and be like, yeah, I'd love to be chilling in there rather than hunting the North American lion with a fucking small piece of an oak tree, because I haven't even found flint yet. Yeah, like they'd trade places with us in a heartbeat, have absolutely no understanding of what we're doing. But domestication, anyway, we've domesticated around us. Everybody knows dogs and cats. Cats, they're like halfway there, I think. One of my favorite animals. But also, you forget fruits and vegetables. So domesticated in some cases that they're literally going to go extinct. They're totally dependent on human beings. And the famous example is bananas, I believe. The one single strain of banana that we all love and eat is in some trouble because it's all the same fucking tree, and some fungus has gotten a hold of it that kills that particular tree. And it's just kind of a matter of time of how much they can keep planting new fucking banana clones before the fungus finds all of them. So we've domesticated not just animals, a shit ton of animals, but probably even more plants, rices, grains, domestic. Those people did that, if you didn't know. But what gets often lost is that we've also domesticated ourselves. And I think you can see that in the bone and muscle structure of the human body, especially in the jaw. All right, we used to have much more like gorilla-style jaws on us, Neanderthals even. Much more built for power, but we have sacrificed power for finesse. And so just like a gorilla or chimpanzee would just beat the ever-living shit out of us, and there's nothing you can do about it, even if you're 400 pounds, even if you're Ronnie Coleman in his prime, your arm's getting pulled out of its socket by a 150-pound chimpanzee. But we have far exceeded any other living animal in finesse and dexterity and fine motor control. And I think that maps quite nicely to the way we think also. But I don't know. I'll throw this out there. There's a lot of people that think that humanity itself has transcended to the very point we're at now. Maybe not necessarily with the internet and shit like that, but otherwise every bit as intellectually evolved as we are. Circle jerks surrounded by technology, talking about domesticated humans. Yeah, and I wasn't trying to exclude myself from that insult. I am very much domesticated as well. And some parts of that I don't mind so much. But some parts of it I've come to realize are a problem. And so I've been personally on somewhat of a mission to, people call it being more masculine, but I honestly think men and women both. How to build a shelter, how to find your own food, things like that. And then there's this weird reward circuit in your brain, if you've ever hunted or fished or something like that, where it feels quite nice. And you do that long enough and you start to look at animals and be like, that looks tasty. Also one of my favorite questions. When you look at an animal, like a cow, do you get hungry? Do you want to eat it? And I don't mean do you think of a cheeseburger when you look at a cow. Do you think of a filet mignon? But do you want to walk over and bite that fucking thing and start eating it? And I do. I don't know if I was always that way. Maybe it's learned. Maybe it's relearned. I don't know. And maybe that's a bad thing. But we can't even really eat raw meat all that great anymore, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. So domestication brings all these weird cultural and societal problems. Things like that you just wouldn't see health problems, cancer, things like that. I mean, they still happen in the wild. You can still run into a deer if you kill a deer, and it might have cancer. I mean, it fucking happens. But it's not like everybody born had great genetics. It's just that if you didn't have great genetics, your ass was dead in like 10 seconds. And so the research says anyway that back before prehistory, people were commonly over 6 feet tall. Commonly as big as we are now. They were also basically professional athletes physically and rocket scientists mentally. And so not that we all should be that way or anything like that, but domestication has allowed the propagation, and a lot of us are these people. I'm wearing fucking glasses, right? The environment has changed, so what succeeds has changed. And maybe that's a way to look at it. The environment selects now for lying, conniving, secret handshaking assholes, whatever that was from. Some fucking movie quote. So what drives it? It certainly isn't losing honor. I am old enough to remember when most people my age did aspire to some form of glory or accomplishment or whatever. That sort of seems to have gone out the window. Now it's just sort of everyone's willing to lie and cheat and whatever to get a tiny moment of recognition from a thing called the internet that's not even fucking real. It's strange. I don't understand it. But nobody else really seems to talk about this seriously, other than like throw one single question at it on some fucking YouTube video or tweet and then just drop it and never come back to it. That's not entirely true. There's a lot of people on X, Twitter, whatever, criminally under subscribed or followed or whatever people who talk about this. Maybe I'll dig some of them up here in a little bit. But no, yeah, and I'm not saying people should be over 6 feet tall or anything like that. It's just, it's changed. It's changed a lot, and it's changed so fast in my lifetime from the 80s till now, about 40 years. And what's really interesting, if you're around my age, around 40 years old, say 35 to 45 or something like that, everyone older and younger than you has no fucking idea how computers work. I mean, they can use them, and the younger group is much more fluent with using smartphones mostly. They're actually not great with computers. It's kind of weird. But maybe we are this weird singular age group for the next, 2,000 years and previous 2,000 years who have this insight into seeing it. It changed so fast. We saw how they made the platforms easier to use for people. Thank you, Rabberugi, for the $5 Canadian. So like the 7 cents, you bastard. No, I'm just kidding. You guys have it really tough up there. I actually think if anybody can comment on the horrors of human domestication, of humans domesticating themselves accidentally and other humans on purpose, it would be a Canadian. So I'm curious how that's all going up there. I actually kind of have a sneaking suspicion you and everyone else is getting bombarded with the H-1B visa people. That whole culture in India, which was an Aryan culture, seems to be the shitty remnants of what used to be a much greater empire of sorts, a very smart one, the Vedas and whatnot. And you still even have this weird effect in the caste system. I think we talked about this on a previous Cider House, where the higher caste globally in every culture are lighter skinned, and the lower castes are darker skinned. And then that was even true in Rome, although in Europe it was more that your skin was darker if you're white, if you spend more time outside. If you spend more time outside, you're probably more of a laborer. And then there was even the distinction between, so high status men were still more tan than high status women, because a soldier or general like Caesar could be high status, but he was actually fucking outside. So, and you see this on like the mosaics that were uncovered in Pompeii. If I'm saying the right fucking volcano, whatever fucking volcano. Jesus, I'm trying to talk about too many different things. I'm all over the place. But the men, the high status men, were like kind of darker skinned, and their high status wives in these little tile mosaics were light skinned. So India, anyway, modern day India, northern India, I believe, is the higher caste people. The Brahmins in some cases, look almost white. And this is true in South America also, the Castillos and the Mestizos, light and dark. So anyway, I kind of more and more suspect that modern day India is thousands of years removed from some place that was somewhat analogous to how the United States looked maybe 100, 200 years ago. And that over time, like anywhere that develops a lot of intellectual mass in the physical sense, that will develop a lot of gravity in the physical sense and attract things in the physical sense to it. American made, praises God for President Trump. Yes, potentially setting this all back on track. I hope. Oh, what's going on, the guy? Great to catch you live. I'm a big fan of your songs. I'm mostly on Rumble, but stop by YouTube. Is Asshole for a minute. Yeah, by all means, man. Talking about smart guys on Twitter, if that's who I'm thinking of. If you're the guy on Twitter, there's a good follow. But yeah, if you want a prediction, what the United States will look like in several thousand years if nothing changes, I would argue just look at modern day India. Is that racist? I don't know. Not intending it to be. But I think I am kind of in that camp of that this has been going on a lot longer than we think. I sometimes wonder, so the chief god in a lot of ancient religions often throws lightning. Zeus isn't the only one. There's older ones than that. I kind of wonder if some unusually smart guy and probably somewhat lucky guy sort of figured out some rudimentary way of creating small sparks and shit. And probably had a grand old time, if that was like 30,000 years ago, just fucking with people. And that's where our modern day lightning bolt throwing Zeus comes from. Things like that. Circle jerk. The problem isn't status. It's unreasonable expectations for a mate. People want to sleep above their pay grade, and social media has destroyed women's behavior. Yeah, in a wider sense, the connectivity of the internet has kind of destroyed everyone's fucking behavior, mine included. If it wasn't clear, I am part of this. I have totally lost my mind. Sometimes I can cope. Sometimes I just seethe. But I don't know what to do about this, but I'll certainly tell you it doesn't scare me, and it doesn't scare me because it's not scary. It doesn't scare me because that's not really efficacious to figuring this out. What is the problem? And then what do we do about it? But I would place myself firmly in the camp of some sort of return to a more primal nature. And you have these weird things. So like with the younger guys that come on Cider House, not them specifically, but they talk about their peer group. People like the incels, for example, but women as well, just literally can't figure out how to talk to each other to get to the point of having sex, which is the oldest and most natural thing humans do. And I would argue that's domestication. You see that two different ways, whether they're over-domesticated species that you start needing to get a shit ton of human involvement to get them to breed, or if you cage a wild animal. Certain wild animals will not breed if you cage them, which is kind of fucking awesome. And it's maybe a small red pill or silver lining buried in all of this. Certainly as you go younger and younger, it starts to feel a little more like they just have lost the ability to naturally mate. But most adults right now, I think they do perfectly fine. It's just gotten so weird socially. There's all these unseen rules that are not equally and consistently applied. Mouse Utopia. Thank you. There you go. APOC null. Mouse Utopia. Just a single experiment. I don't know if anyone ever tried it again, so you can only speak so much to it. But yeah, in attempting to create this utopia, just degenerated into a shit show. A very few strong, powerful males sort of killed everybody, but even they wouldn't fucking breed. They were just sort of arbitrarily territorial until they all went extinct. It's a bit more complicated than that. I'm not quite ready to write off humanity or anything like that, but there's signs of that. There are signs of that. Juan Ramirez, what's up, guys? Don't forget to smash that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That would be great. I get like 30 subscribers deleted every day, and someday maybe Doge will audit YouTube and I'll get some $1 trillion check, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Nicholas Gogel or Goggle is agreeing. Mouse utopia is unsettling, applying the same logic to human civilization. And even more so, human cities have much more of that problem than rural areas. So there seems to be something about living in a little bit older, natural, open space, trees and jungle like behind me allows you to hang on to your humanity a little bit longer. And yet the problem those people have, like we're talking about with the criminals, is these criminals are not honest people, and they're not honorable. They're just insane. And if you're not, you use that empathy, treat others how you wanted to be treated. That isn't really working. I'll say that. The golden rule seems to have been outstripped by the development of, said, like, that shit wouldn't work in Mouse Utopia. I don't really apply it. I think it's a good heuristic to kind of throw out the window. The golden rule is still great if you manage to identify somebody that's in your in-group, psychology term, which is all that, what they call racism is just your in-group bias. Totally natural. Everybody else is allowed to do it. But I digress. Gulf Coast, Florida man of the Gulf of America, probably still my favorite name. I've always felt like an outsider looking through the bushes, watching people being fucking weird and doing insane shit. Yeah, it sounds like my experience my entire life. Just don't get it. Chronic, like I do, but I'm also secluded and lonely. Yeah, it's you're forced to withdraw. I understand you guys intimately. You do feel like you're forced to withdraw for the sake of keeping your own sanity. And I think that that's kind of the only choice that you really have. The one nice thing about the internet, it's happening on this live stream right now, is that when used properly as a tool, and humans have figured out tools, how to make them from scratch, and then eventually how to use them properly, will reconnect you with your lost in-group that is now spread out and stratified all over the country, speaking different languages, all sitting there in their lonely rooms, like all of us, saying, where the fuck is everybody else that's like me? So it can be used to our advantage. Damn it if they're not trying everything they can to keep us from using it that way, but it can be. Kahina Kabiche, exactly. Cohesive, order, behavioral norms, etc. There was a great video. Maybe I can pull it up here while we're talking, where Trevor Noah, of all fucking people, this was on Twitter today, or X, whatever the hell. Sorry, Elon. It was on X, arguing for segregation in America between black and white people, which was hilarious. But he used the example of Finland, how mind-fucked he was when he went to Finland, that they were able to tolerate all these different ideas because they were culturally homogenous. Crusty white bread, I moved to the middle of the Arizona desert to stay sane. I feel you, man. We're all right on the cusp of that if we haven't done it already. Good comment from Sir Don't Trip. Shut up and watch the porn, goy. Yeah, pornography, another drug, another addiction. Pornography, food, literal drugs, alcohol, which is a drug, but alcohol, we consider it something else. Cigarettes. Tobacco is a weird one because it does some, nicotine and things like that. But, maybe I'm taking my own side. What can you do? But I do suggest, if you haven't seen it, go watch that Trevor Noah thing, because it's like watching fucking chimpanzees figure out how to dig for termites. It's like, holy shit, man, that's what we've been saying. It's like, in Finland, they have all kinds of crazy different ideas, but they all just get along because they're all Finns. Fucking idiot. Jason Ryan Wilson stepped in to say hi. Should come to Kentucky and go spear hunting. I would still very much like to do that. Still want to get a crew together, make some handmade spears, flint tipped, go find us some crazy fucking bear somewhere and just kill it. I think it would respect that. Chronic, not all cultures are compatible with each other, since there's some that try to eat you and they leave you alone, things not a part of it. LOL. Yes, exactly. Juan Ramirez is channeling a little Hank. Why do you drink? Why do you roll smoke? It's a family tradition. You guys get it. It's preaching to the choir here. But in another life, I dropped out of academia because I saw where that was all going. But there's some sort of professorship that can be extracted from this mess, and I think it's manthropology. So we'll see what happens. So again, thank you everybody for joining me. This is sort of a old school, unannounced live stream type thing like we used to do 10 years ago about a lot of people in here, actually. Just me tonight. Just me. Tested out the jungle set. Having a beer, some snuff, and some wacky cigarettes. It's just how I roll. Just accept it. Carton of cigarettes. Yeah, that would be a great gift. Thank you. Oh, yeah, and again, since I had it up back there to top right of your screen, some original art by William Maines and some custom shoes by my boy Dodger, who I'm getting something else from here pretty soon. Oh, yes, so we are talking about the wide, all-encompassing question of just what is the problem. I have put forward my thoughts that we lack the language to completely capture the idea of what the problem is, and then two sort of books on the docket, one from 1786, I believe it was, The Criminal from Lost Honor. And then not talking about it so much tonight, but there's a over 400-year-old book, The Anatomy of Melancholy. Kabam. Robert Burton. This bad boy, it's actually pretty good. Sort of the first attempt to understand depression. And then what we're sort of getting at is what is the fucking problem? What is going on? The Criminal from Lost Honor. Original criminals hundreds of years ago were still otherwise decent people. This is all happening in Europe. Usually through bad luck or poor birth, being born to low status, they develop the opinion, low self-esteem, let's call it. They accept that internally and they just start committing crime because why the fuck not? They just get that fuck it mentality. But there was a time they weren't that way, and possibly with some treatment they can become not that way. And I admitted I'm sort of one of those people. And I like to learn lessons the hard way, but I do learn them. And have never set out with the intent to harm another person, just to have a little fun. The question here is not whether we broke a few rules or took a few liberties with our female party guests. That sort of thing, if you know that movie. But domestication, we've been talking about. Chronic, I love those Mojack streams. Can't track his ass down. Speaking of wild, man. Hope you can wrangle him back to the studio or figure something out as tech gets better inevitably here thanks to Trump. Yes. Yes, he has a standing invitation. Always tough to track down. Also maybe wasn't fully on board with some of the college kid things, and I don't blame him. So yeah, it was the intention here in Studio Center to get a number of different live shows going that we have done. There's going to be more of them, but I always wanted to circle back to doing something of my own, kind of like we used to. If it's not for you, that's fine. Pulls out a DSM-5. Holy shit. This guy knows. This guy knows. Another good comment from Living Dust. I almost missed it. Robin Hood stole from the government and gave to the church. I hate that that's been rewritten as stole from the rich to give to the poor. So there you go. Another good example. So what is the problem? We're no longer dealing with criminals from Lost Honor, but more criminals like from the movie No Country for Old Men. Right? I don't want to go out and meet something I don't understand. Anton Chigurh. Maybe a bit of a metaphor for death himself, if you will. It's also fiction. It's a fucking movie. But there's that great little speech from Tommy Lee Jones talking about that little young kid he arrested who killed somebody because he just wanted to know what it felt like. And if they let him out, he'd do it again. That's the new kind of criminal we're dealing with. That is not a criminal from Lost Honor. It doesn't seem like these people arose very often in the past outside of maybe a few Roman emperors like fucking Caligula and shit. But now you run into Caligula at fucking Starbucks if you go there. You run into Caligula working at the checkout aisle in fucking Walmart, unless it's all self-checkout. but you get the idea. And maybe that's worth talking about for a second, is how did we get Caligula? Well, you just kind of give somebody, I don't know, a little too much freedom. I hate to go down that road. It's interesting though. But yeah, it used to be, it was always, I guess I'd say, it was always a position of extreme luxury, just like most positions of the left. It's a huge luxury to be able to give a fuck about immigrants. Most places aren't rich enough to have that luxury. They just fucking shoot them. That's how I think about it. You can, disagree. Maybe I'm wrong. But now, in a weird sense, there's like a 50% chance every fucking person on the street you walk past is goddamn Caligula level insane. And I don't know if that's too much freedom and power, like Kahina is saying, or it's a total lack of your ability to control yourself. Like in Good Will Hunting, without liberty, man is a syncope. Although he mispronounces it in the movie, by the way. He says syncope. Fucking always cracks me up if you didn't know. Let's pull that up here real quick in a new tab. A syncope, that is not the right, that's not the one term I'm fucking looking for. It's not the medical term. All right, well, I ain't going that far into it, but there's a great line. It's a little error in Good Will Hunting when he's on trial for punching the cop. Without liberty, man is he says syncope, it's syncope. Incomplete. Living dust. Campfire politics is the natural way of men. You care about the people warmed by your campfire and hold the line against the wild animals, monsters, and strangers that patrol the outer darkness. Very well said. Very well said. It's kind of interesting that the more primitive of the metaphor you go to, the more it starts to sound right. Caring more about the monsters, animals, and strangers that lurk in the outer darkness is modernist insanity. Exactly. You didn't live very long if 50,000 years ago you ran away from the campfire because you said, that bear is oppressed. It's oppressed by us, and I want to go give it a hug. And then it just bites your face off and eats you from the legs up slowly. That lesson was learned. Jack Dawes, and welcome, Jack Dawes. It makes sense he said it that way in the movie. Oh, God, that's actually a fucking really good point. Because I do this too. Shit, the character read a bunch of books. He probably never heard it said by another person. Holy shit, that's one of the most genius comments and insights I've ever seen on the live stream. It was a mistake. I've refused to believe it was that well written, but maybe. It's a great comment. That's a great comment. Can't figure them out, can't understand them. I don't know. Can it be done? Who are these Anton Chigurhs walking around? Transsexual Anton Chigurhs. What do they want, if anything at all? Maybe they just want to burn everything down. Very possible. Sometimes I do too, although that's a bit of a learned behavior. Manthropology Live. Is it time to stop understanding criminals? That is the question at hand. The first attempt, as far as I know, 1786, Criminal from Lost Honor. We've now gone the full length of the lifespan of the United States of America. And as I said at the beginning, G.K. Chesterton, quoting him, the point of an open mind is to shut it again on something solid. And so I think we're shutting again time. Where a good portion of us are. Were you hoping for nuance? This is a good comment, is all. That's all. Please don't feed the bears, says the Red Baron, and don't give them cocaine. We don't need any cocaine bear, so. Fuck, man, people do have bears, and look at the Tiger King out there. having his employees getting their arms ripped off and shit while he's messing people up and raping them, and holy crap. Allegedly. Sorry, Joe Exotic. You are a wild man, I'll give you that. Yeah, I mean, is going too far backward? Are we just in a world of Joe Exotics? I don't think so. I think it would have been more like a world of Tom Brady's. Like, that's kind of how I picture it. Cooperation is what allowed us to get here. The first groups of people that started cooperating, right? So, I mean, gorillas are quite peaceful animals. And even though you have this giant alpha male, like it's a shitty job. We've watched tons of videos about that. He basically just sits there, and when the women start fighting each other or biting each other's babies and shit, he just goes and smacks them up. But like, and then occasionally he might run into another troop, and he's got I feel like those two male gorillas like have a little mental handshake. They're like, yep, this is the lot we drew in life. One of us is going down. But I mean, they're quite a healthy group in the outside of captivity anyway. JB, some folks only speak violence. They literally don't understand any other kinds. Seems that way for sure. And now we're into Nietzsche territory of careful when fighting monsters lest you become a monster. Stare long enough into the abyss stares also back into you. So maybe in being forced to confront ourselves, having the needs and duties of just plain survival removed from us, the food is in the refrigerator, etc., etc., we've now have the luxury to confront ourselves internally, and we've lost quite horribly. I always found it funny that like the earliest sort of Buddhist monk type guys, were born amongst regular humanity in the sort of lowland Himalayas, and they just got so fed up with everybody, they went and built fucking houses like up in the snow just to get away from the nonsense. That's been happening a long time. And it gets overlooked that the ancient stories of the Buddhist monks were don't ever fucking talk to them, they'll just kill you. Like the regular normie people down in town. There's lots of stories of like, don't fucking go up in the mountains, that guy's just going to kill you. And they would. They're just like, nah, man, I came up here to get away from you. Get the fuck out. They just chuck him off the top of the mountain. David Oler King, be the monster you want to see in the world. I mean, that's our challenge, isn't it? How do we get through this without becoming absolute monsters? How do you take down something like a Mexican cartel sawing people's faces off? Is it the only thing they understand? They seem to be hell-bent on us believing it so. Living dust, man has conquered the world and now is left to wrestle with the two greater enemies, the body and the devil. Well put again. Robbie C. has a great point. A big part of the problem is that there's nowhere left that is unclaimed. This is a unique problem to modern humans. All throughout human history, as far as we know anyway, is when it hit this point, you'd build a boat and you'd point it into the ocean and you'd see where you ended up. Probably with a little bit more thought and experimenting than that, of course, because they pulled it off. Well, maybe a lot of people did. I don't know. But they seem to be a little bit better at it than we give them credit for. You can't do that anymore. You cannot do that anymore. You can't even build a fucking boat before some fat, overweight, donut-eating cop bastard, rent-a-cop probably, comes down and gives you a fucking ticket for illegal boat building without a permit. So it's beyond just physically, we are very capable, and a lot of us are smart enough to do that stuff. And there's lots of little islands out there. I've looked at every single one of them about. Of just like, I mean, would anyone really know if I just went? But yeah, probably. There's probably some fucking satellite. It's probably Jeffrey Epstein's brother owns it. And you wouldn't last all that long. Life on a boat sounds pretty fucking cool, though. I'm not going to lie. The people pulling that off, holy shit. Joshua Cully. My sister's reading Nietzsche. By the way, I know it's commonly said Nietzsche. To my understanding, its correct pronunciation is Nietzsche, but I don't really care. I just say Nietzsche, so whatever. She's depressed and on antidepressants and shit she just keeps buying into. Seeing a therapist that doesn't help her. She's a liberal leftist and is no getting through. Then she's not understanding Nietzsche. She is not understanding it if it's not helping her get through that, because he was a sickly, frail, tiny, depressed guy who blasted through that barrier with concepts like the Ubermensch. So she just needs to get a little more Ubermenschy. I'm sure she'd be very receptive to that comment. See what happens. See what happens. I'm getting a little ashy here. My bad. Studio Dude Shed, good group of world champions tonight. This is cool. Yeah, a little bit different vibe. I was kind of hoping for that. Is it time to stop understanding criminals? But it has been quite some time since we've done a more cerebral show like this, so it's been a lot of fun. Robbie C. What is, quote, freedom in the modern day? I often think about westward expansion and what those old frontier guys would think about today. They got mad about trains within a day's ride. Yeah, I mean, you could talk about taxes that way too, and throw in a bunch of tea in the harbor over, what was it, a 1% tax? Mod my mind, can't own an RV anymore. You got to pay to park it anywhere that you go. Chronic, it's not as fun as it seems. I used to live in the Keys, tried it all, have its issues. It's good if you want to get away from everything, but it's a pain in the ass to get what you need. Yeah, it ain't easy. And to develop something like a little farmette that was self-sufficient, then you're going to get found, probably. Parody Bear, drug cartels limit drug addiction by not being a drug-demanding, sex-crazed hippie culture. They might start peddling something else. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think anybody disagrees. Don't fucking do drugs. Don't eat so much you get super fucking fat. Don't be a raging alcoholic. Don't watch porn, etc., etc. But easier said than done. So, I mean, how do you stop people from getting into it in the first place? How do you get them out of it once they're in it? Can you get them out of it once they're truly in it? Or are we now you're sort of into a forced, not so nice adult decision? Cut the bad fruit off of the tree. Chronic has a great point. We also rent everything now. You don't, and it's even worse than that. I mean, straight up rent, yes. But money is one of the funniest things out there. Taxed when you get paid. Taxed when you spend it. Taxed when you earn it. Taxed when you die. Taxed when you're born and inherit it and blah, blah, blah. It is, gets rather infuriating if you realize if you're given $1, how much of that disappears before you get to use any of it. And you can't even just leave it somewhere because it devalues over time. I would argue that's not an accident. I think we're kind of dealing with right now, it's cool to see people in agreement and talking this way. But as very opinionated and strong individuals, we tend not to work together very well either. And so we went through this whole phase of humanity where cooperation was very beneficial. And then now the psychological term is disagreeableness. I am extremely high in disagreeableness. It's just how I am. I didn't choose it. It's not an act. Some people act. I'm not proud of it. It's kind of hard to be functional sometimes. But maybe disagreeableness is making a bit of a comeback. Trump is a very disagreeable person in the psychological sense. Maybe the more positive term of art is a free thinker. A free thinker is very high in disagreeableness or disagreeability, whatever the actual term is. But so maybe the problem at hand, or at least the solution at hand, is to form a group of individuals, which is sort of a linguistic paradox. And I don't know that can be done. The closest thing historically to a group of individuals would be something like the Roman military. Thank you, Rabaruji, for the 3 American cents. I appreciate it. It's more than that. It's more than that. Yeah, Chronic, it makes us great at debates. That can be fun, but it's also lonely. Yeah, I mean, again, like Chesterton is saying with the whole close your open mind on something solid. The point of debate was never to get into these. It's not debate for debate itself, although that can be entertaining. But even that's sort of flown its course. The internet blood sports and thing like that. I feel like people like Destiny are on the decline. Maybe it's just because there's not any entertaining debaters, that people are just being mean. And debating is an art, and you're putting on a performance, in my opinion, and it should be, a good show. But if we could all somehow unify over some common idea, even temporarily, to just wipe the insane people on the left off the planet and then get back to fighting with each other over more reasonable things, that would be great. I don't know what that unifying thing might be, though. Maybe you have some thoughts. Yeah, and Joe Blow. Oh, he's referencing, let me see if I got that. Form a group. Sure, the feds do it all the time. Everyone's a Fed now. I don't know that I fully agree with that. But yeah, even the idea of forming a group at all. This is like the left is just so good at it. It seems to come to them naturally. MAGA, Robbie C. That's the strength of MAGA. So Trump, astoundingly, miraculously, I mean, one of the greatest leaders of people that I can think of in recorded history, honestly. I mean, I don't know if it's ever been harder going into 2016 to unify people, and he did it from the uncool, unpopular side of the aisle, coming off Obama, who was considered Jesus. I mean, I know we didn't, but he was presented that way, and most people just accept what they're presented. So he just it's just so hard. I mean, go back and watch some of that stuff. It's fucking awesome what he did. Just through sheer willpower, like a fucking asteroid hitting the earth. And if anything, snuff. Got some snuff up there. It kind of woke us up is the term. We awakened. I did anyway. I mean, maybe you were already awake, but I was not. I will freely admit that. Definitely drugs and sex and partying and not giving a fuck in not the fun adult way, but in the immature, like Robin Williams. So many stupid movie references tonight. But going back to Good Will Hunting, that park bench scene that feels very gay. I think Matt Damon says, but Robin Williams has his great line of when I look at you, I don't see a strong, confident man. I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid. Yeah, the masculinity is fake. Andrew Tate sort of shit. Not that necessarily he's not really that way. Maybe he is. Maybe he's an intelligence asset. I don't know. Maybe he is a Judas goat. I don't know. But not speaking to how he actually is, even if he's faking it, what he's doing, Andrew Tate, is still kind of fucking hard to do. It's a pretty absurd lifestyle to live. I can't live with that sort of lie, but maybe he can, or maybe it really is that way. But yeah, how would you get like 50 Andrew Tates to work together? They wouldn't. Not exactly a great metaphor, but maybe you see what I'm getting at. Some great chats. I'll let it roll for a minute. What time are we going? I don't even know what time I started. Let's see here. Ooh, I'm going for over an hour. I like it. We are still holding pretty steady. You all 150 or so, you have been with me the whole time, which is awesome. So I will keep it going for a while unless I hear otherwise or it gets too cold in here, something like that. Run out of cigarettes or run out of beers. Oh, geez, I've been highlighting these super chats. I just realized. So anyway, if you're just joining us, is it time to stop understanding criminals? Or you can think about it as what is the problem? Or you can think about it as the point of an open mind is to shut it again on something solid. Or you can think about it as No Country for Old Men. I don't want to go out and meet something I don't understand. How have criminals changed? What exactly are we dealing with? Is it consciousness? Is it just ourselves? Is there some sort of new species? Actually, that's kind of a fun direction to go. Let's go that direction. Bear with me for a second. Morphology is a component of phenotype, which is the observable characteristics of an organism. Let's go to phenotype here. The observable, so not just physically. Well, let's see how Wikipedia does here. In genetics, the phenotype, from ancient Greek to appear or show, is the set of observable characteristics or traits in an organism. The term covers the organism's morphology, which is its physical form, its developmental processes, its biochemical and physical properties, its behavior, key point, and the products of behavior. And so the way evolution works, at least with humans, appears to be, and if you don't believe in such things, bear with me, is that it leapfrogs between a morphological or physical change and a behavioral change. And with humans specifically, there are actually terms for this. It's quite well studied. So in terms of morphology, think the word morph or form. Oh, God, they changed the term again. Yes, the anatomically modern human. Look, it's us. But there was a point in development where physically, morphologically, humans are just like us if you go back. And that is going back to, I've seen anywhere from 100 to 500,000 years. So it says 233 or 200. Physically, you remember that old Brendan Fraser movie, Encino Man, where he's fucking melted out of a block of ice? Behaviorally, he's quite different. But when they throw him in the 1980s clothes with that idiot Pauly Shore, at a glance, people can't tell he's a caveman, and some women find him quite attractive and things like that. That is the anatomically modern human. You can go back several 100,000 years. Again, keep in mind, recorded history is about, 6,000 years? Allegedly, several 100,000 years, and people would look physically effectively the same, other than white skin. That also is supposedly only about 6,000 years old. But behaviorally, they were nothing like us. They were fucking idiots. Maybe they were geniuses, depending on how you look at it with this domestication shit. And so, you guessed it, the next step is what's called a behaviorally modern human. Behavioral modernity is a suite of behavioral and cognitive traits believed to distinguish or differentiate current humans from anatomically modern humans that we just looked at. Most scholars agree modern human behavior can be characterized by abstract thinking, planning, symbolic behavior like art and ornamentation, music, dance, exploitation of large game, blade technology, a big one I don't see on here, but like burial of the dead or signs of some sort. I guess that's probably abstract thinking. And so you can trace this stuff. There's a point where there's, you can find jewelry and weapons and all that sort of stuff that would survive quite a bit longer. It could have been 300,000 years old, but there's nothing. And then you hit this point where suddenly it starts popping up everywhere. There we go. They call it the Great Leap Forward, about 40 to 50,000 years ago. So roughly factors of 10, orders of magnitude. Say roughly 500,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans. 50,000 years ago, behaviorally modern humans. Ignore this fucking stupid shit. Where's the model? Did I skip it? Great leap forward. Great leap forward. Other models focus on, so it's a question of, was it all at once or did it happen in small steps? And weirdly, it actually seems to be kind of like an all at once. And I would argue that there was some sort of threshold that was crossed intellectually. Consciousness? I don't know. But before about, right, there's a fucking window. About 50,000 years ago, we're just going to call it that. Nothing. Just apes. Just gorillas. Looked like us, but acted like monkeys. Apes. After 50,000 years ago, identical to us in every way. Probably superior to us as individuals in almost every way. And that goes back to what we said earlier. Prehistory. If you survived into adulthood, you were a fucking NFL athlete and a rocket scientist. Probably. Generalizations. And then you see, of course, language probably had a big part of this. The ability to pass on knowledge and information. So humans develop an oral tradition. I'm sure you've all heard of the Iliad and the Odyssey, the blind Greek poet Homer. Homer didn't write shit. He maybe even wasn't real. He maybe is an amalgamation of several people. But long before people figured out how to write shit, they just passed it down verbally. Language existed way before written language. It seems so obvious to us now, but it was quite a leap forward to realize that you could represent thought with these arbitrary symbols. The earliest ones of those are sort of like Egyptian hieroglyphs or Sanskrit or the Mayans, going back to what's really the Olmecs, that kind of stuff. The Gorillad. That's actually a fucking great idea. That's a great idea, David Ollerking. The Gorillad. Making that movie immediately after I stop this live stream. I'm going to start making the Gorillad. Speaking of Matt Damon, I'm sure you guys saw that stupid Odyssey poster. Holy shit. But yes, writing, massive developmental change. And so what you would somewhat expect is to go back to the physical changes, drive behavioral changes, drive physical changes. And they sure have. You look at our jaws versus, let's pull this up. Alrighty. Neanderthal skull versus Homo sapien skull. There's the Neanderthal. Much more forward, prominent jaws. Tool use. Bit of a flatter fucking brain, sloped forehead. Much more in contact with their physical environment. Look at these pussies. That's us. Look at that shit. So, physical change drives a behavioral change. You start making artworks and little finger paintings, and then that drives a physical change. And now you're this. And this drives some sort of behavioral change. I want to write down words. And then if this pattern is to be believed, if it keeps continuing, your mouth becomes more and more of a suck hole. These little chinlets. Let's see what comes up with that. There you go. Yeah, just worse and worse. There you go. Speaking of Andrew Tate. So it's a pretty convincing pattern. It's a pretty convincing pattern, and it's kind of interesting to me that we find attractive, or at least it seems like women find attractive in men, much more Neanderthal-looking characteristics than Homo sapien ones, or at least suckhole ones. But the eyesight would get worse. The fucking physical senses all keep getting worse. Your mouth and jaw, as you stop using it to rip living animals apart, while laughing hysterically in your wild animalness. You just sort of become a little suckhole face. Surgical O2, what did I just step in? Cockmouth is real. So our behaviors, some people's behaviors in modern times anyway, the pattern, IQ is all about pattern recognition, seems to suggest that some of us, maybe us is the wrong term, are heading down the old suckhole path of the physical change. And some of us, because of the mental change, are like, maybe I want to exert some conscious control over whether or not I go down that road. I'm going to go find me a 6'8" Samoan woman, and I'm going to have me some fucking linebacker babies. I don't know. I don't know if it works that way. Adam Schiff. Yeah, pencil neck. Zeb Boykin is in the house. It also has to do with early nutrition development, for sure. And so on that note, we have access to all kinds of foods readily that are fantastic for our brains that we didn't used to. And this is hilarious. And some of you probably know where this is going. Remember how we were all kind of taught, or at least if you're around my age, that like fat is bad for you? Fat makes you fat, and cholesterol's bad, and eggs are bad, and blah. No, that shit is phenomenal for you. You know what your brain is made out of? It's pretty much fat. I know it's not, but I'm just going to say it is because it's kind of true. Your fucking brain loves fat. There is a reason when you're starving in the wilderness and you come across a twig or a leaf next to a Cinnabon, there's an obvious choice. You're not thinking. These things were so rarely encountered in the wild that when you encountered them, your ass was wired to eat the ever-living fuck out of it. And so, yes, I'm proud to say I've been on the good cholesterol and the fat that, bacon, the Atkins diet, holy shit. You can just crush bacon and cheese. Celtic Talisman Dry Snuff. I should get a fucking sponsor. They'd be like, not on your fucking videos. That's what happens to me most of the time. Anyway, you get the idea. Fat is fantastic for you. Wild animals love fat. They love bone marrow. Yes, they love muscle also. But after they eat all the fatty parts. It's just goddamn delicious. Your body wants it. It's great for you. Cinnabon is edible gold. Living dust, modernity. Avoid fats, consume carbohydrates, garbage. The more refined, the better. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you get it. The closer to sugar, the more you need it. Trust me, the FDA agrees with me. Yeah, carbs, those old domesticated wild grains. Yeah, it's good when you don't have anything else. When you develop weirdly with no understanding of civilization, you start developing these civilizational centers of 10,000 people, 20,000 people. And there's, animals don't hang around those areas too long. And, you can survive on it. But I guarantee you the Mayan homies at the top of the pyramid ripping people's hearts out were not eating a whole lot of grains. And I'll circle back to how I said, when I see a fucking cow, I want to eat that thing. And I want its fat. Yeah, the worst part, the most unhealthy part of a hamburger or cheeseburger is the damn bun. I shit you not. Milk is also another one. Lots of fat. Imagine that. Learn how to domesticate cows and get milk and make butter and cheese. Hey, which civilization seems to be a little bit smarter than the other ones? Maybe it was just cheese. Maybe it was just milk. I'm not even kidding. We literally, us weirdo whiteys, have this weird lactose tolerancy that almost nobody else has. And there was probably a lot of very unhappy, diarrheaing fucking white Europeans there for a little while that just did it because they didn't really have another choice. And then, as weirdly seems to happen, the body kind of catches up. But yeah, you see me. I'm not saying I'm a bastion of health. That's mostly cigarettes' fault and a total lack of exercise, but don't eat a lot of carbs, and I eat pretty much straight up bacon, meat, cheese, and eggs. Is that accurate? Yeah. Producer says that's about right. About right. Occasionally I'll have a cracker. I'll have a saltine once in a while with some of those cheeses, but fat is phenomenal. If you get sick from eating too much of it, you can't blame me. But there's HP in the comments to save me. Lipids. A lot of lipids in your brain and body. A lot of them. Pizza, too many carbs. Get rid of it. Lay down a circular pattern of bacon and then cheese and pepperoni on top of that. That would be better for you. I got a little distracted here. I enjoy the chat, though. Yeah, it's not like a piece of bread will kill you. Fatness equals smartness. Consumption of fat, I would. Man, I wonder if there's probably not been a study on that, but we could check it out. Gulf Coast, Florida man of the Gulf Coast of America. I am also skinny and eat what they say should make me fat. 100%. I used to actually be kind of fat at one point in my life. I used to play a lot of sports, and I was running a lot, and so I never really noticed because it didn't really matter what I ate. I'm talking about teenage years through your 20s. But as soon as I stopped playing rugby, my ass went from 220 to about 265 in like a year. And then as I like to exercise conscious control over myself, I was like, you're a fat motherfucker. It's time to lose some weight. And that was my first experience looking into diets. Tried a few until I found a guy who used to be fat that I knew when he was fat, and he was very fucking skinny and looking nice. I said, what'd you do? He said, never eat carbohydrates again. It's just that simple. And so I tried it, and I think I lost 35 pounds in 3 months. Without exercising, I shit you not. So I've also, that was also still like fucking 15 years ago. So now I've been slowly losing my muscle mass. It is what it is. You got to exercise, just like astronauts in space without gravity. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. That sort of thing. Kind of why our sense of smell sucks, because we don't really use it a whole lot. Fully meat pizzas. Holy shit. JB, my theory. Women in general and younger women in particular are going super slutty, hypersexual because they sense the strong male is dwindling. Ooh, that's actually very interesting. And they are adapting to the changing environment. I think there's a lot of other factors going on there, but I do wonder. I've never seen that before. That particular theory. Zeb Boykin, I eat what I want because I pick up heavy things. Yeah, it's like a car, I tell people. Drives me crazy. If you stop putting gas in your car, sooner or later it won't run anymore. So your food is your gas, and your car, in a sense, is how fat you are. It's just a simple equation. I have a thyroid. Now, give me a fatty with a thyroid problem, and I'll lock him in a room with no food. And I promise you, they will be skinny at the end of that. William Maines is on the Sisyphus diet. That's a great comment. Rolling it up the hill over and over and over again. Yeah. I sometimes wonder if our brain doesn't work, not literally like a muscle, but there's certain pathways, like lifting weights. If you don't understand something, you just keep ramming that thought through your head, like lifting weights, and it does click sooner or later. Laughing Dog, another good point. Generally eat one meal a day in our natural environment. This is this weird quirk of evolution if you believe in such things. But yeah, your hunger drives are very dated. They date to a time where you were scavenging for food. It's weird. Like, we almost don't let ourselves get hungry anymore. It's kind of crazy. So, number one, I highly encourage you do that. I think it's good for you. It keeps your brain sharp. Starvation on the opposite end is terrible for you. So obviously not that either. But yeah, there's a sort of natural feel to going about your day, and maybe you have a handful of, I don't know, peanuts here or there, or like a little bite of fruit. But if you're like me anyway, sooner or later, if you let yourself get hungry, you start looking at your animals a little strange. They just look tasty. And then, yeah, bodybuilders will tell you, or like Zeb, if you're a beast like Zeb, who puts up, I believe, well over 300 pounds on the bench. Yeah, like that's the having a car that you're driving 700 miles a day. And so you need to be putting in more gas than that if you want to gain muscle mass. Mod my mind, the 500-pound thyroid lady that sued Uber. Yeah, I can fix her. I'd put every dollar and cent in the world on the fact that if you give me control over her, I will make her skinny. I will turn into a little skinny bag of gross flaps of skin. Because it ain't shrinking down all the way again. That ship has sailed. Make yourself work for your food. All right, where are we at here? We're a little past 8 o'clock. By the way, there was I don't know if I've turned all the Cider House notification duties over to the Cider House people. So I don't know if they let you know there was no show tonight. There will be one Thursday. I was actually heading home, and then I was like, you know what? I've had this little MANTHROPOLOGY live stream cooking for a while. I know a lot of you have grumped to some degree, and I don't blame you about that. This is the John Ward channel. So we're pretty close to switching Cider House over to its own thing. Still a lot of fun, maybe a bit of a younger crowd. Beer is carbs. You're not wrong. Beer is terrible for you. I'm still drinking it, but I will totally agree with you. It's wild how many people would go down that like, well, I mean, it's just one beer. Or two or whatever. And it is. And I'm not going to gain any weight from that because I won't eat for a little bit or whatever. I don't even consciously do it anymore. I just, when I get hungry. But you were 100% right. That shit is terrible for you. You should totally cut it out. We have been drinking it for a while, though. And someone had made the comment of tobacco and nicotine as well. Maybe not so long for Europeans. Tastes so good. Is Jack still trying to rule by decree? Nah, he's all right. We're trying to get him back in town is the issue there. But I'm about it. That's about as much as I can think to say spontaneously on a random Tuesday night about manthropology, about is it time to stop understanding criminals? I would say yes, or we're very close to it. It's not a nice way to live. It seems to be necessary, though. You got to go. You got to go back. You got to go back. And then we're done dealing with them. We can have a chat about our own homegrown criminals to some degree. But smoke a lot of herb and stay out of trouble. Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. You got to maintain. It's I think, harder than ever, maybe ever, to maintain. And so if it keeps you going, little Nietzsche again, that which does not kill me makes me stronger as an individual in one lifespan for sure. You got to overcome. But there's a lot of domestication going on. I think we're being actively domesticated against our will if you're not paying attention, if you're not high in disagreeability or disagreeableness. You just take it like an NPC. As the noose tightens around our collective necks, it's the madmen that are shining most brightly. Kanye West shining a little too brightly, but some sort of happy medium between where he's at and you know, the ones of us that maybe haven't quite spoken out loud so strongly. But even in that respect, it's not something you need to get on the internet and do. It's in your own local environment. That's where it starts. Taking it back over locally and going from there. So it's an interesting time. Those are my thoughts. You all had some very, very interesting thoughts. Maybe for a change, I'll actually, like a good content creator, clip some shorts out of this and post those. But thank you and cheers to all you world champions who caught this spontaneous and random, unannounced Manthropology live stream today. Gosh, maybe we'll start doing more of these. I got a couple other little ideas in mind. The 07 thing, stacking coins, is like it's a salute. It's a man saluting. Chronic, a lot of hard M's and world champions in the house. It's good to see you as always. Thank you for the super chats from the people that sent them. Always helps pay the studio bills. Yeah, put up little fake little palm trees and shit. William Maine's artwork there on the wall. So it's been a good time. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you'll never watch again. It is what it is. It's all good. But thank you for joining. That is it for today. There's my camera. Too much snuff, man. Too much stuff. That is it for today. I am John Warden. Until next time, remember, you are a world champion. Don't let your memes be dreams.